I'm Shayna Wasserman, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Interim Executive Director and Senior Director of Strategic Operations for SRE, and I want to thank you all for being here. So the goal of today is to understand what SRE is, why either you should be a member or what's the benefits of membership and what does it mean to be part of this community. So before we get into what is SRE, I want to talk a little bit about the origin story and what is the problem in our community? What are the challenges that we're trying to solve? So I'm going to start with sort of the problem statement. So the reality is, and before I say this, there have been tremendous positive movement in our community in a variety of things. And the reality is that many of our Jewish organizations and communal spaces are not yet safe, respectful, and equitable for all. Women and those self-identifying as women and other marginalized groups in particular experience harm, discrimination, and a lack of advancement at higher rates to the detriment of the individuals and the wider ecosystem. So expanding on that a little bit, three ideas I want to share. Discrimination, harassment, and abuse are age-old, widespread societal phenomena and occur across our workplaces and communities. This is across cultures and societies. The Jewish community is not unique here. Black women, Indigenous women, Latinx women, women of color, trans women, LGBTQ plus women, and women with disabilities in our community experience compounded harm and inequities. And the majority of our organizations in our ecosystem have limited resources to invest in improving workplace culture. I don't think I'm sharing anything new here, but it's important to ground ourselves in understanding our landscape. So just to go a little bit deeper, I want to acknowledge and thank both Leading Edge and the Jews of Color Initiative for surveying our community and sharing those results. So according to the most recent Leading Edge survey, it shows, and this is a continuing trend, that women are underrepresented among CEOs and board chairs of Jewish nonprofits relative to employees. And there's going to be a lot of data on these slides. I'm not going to read them all. I'm not going to share them all, but you can read. When it comes to the experience of people of color, or specifically Jews of color, people of color are underrepresented in leadership roles in Jewish nonprofits in North America. And according to the Jews of Color Initiative's Beyond the Count perspective of lived experiences of Jews of color, 65% of respondents indicate that American Jewish leaders were either poorly or very poorly addressing racism in the Jewish community. Looking now at the experience of transgender individuals, the recent Leading Edge survey found that a majority of transgender employees who were surveyed do not believe that their organization creates a supportive environment for people of all identities. And an alarmingly high number report that their identity is not respected at work. Looking now at the experience of people with disabilities. Again, from the Leading Edge survey, just over half of those who were surveyed reported that their organization is not aware of their disability and that their organization does not provide them with the necessary disability accommodations. So that is the state of play. And I'll share that, many of you know this story, that, just over 6 years ago, in the wake of the Me Too movement, as I alluded to before, we realized that the Jewish community is not immune to the things that were coming out of Me Too and to workplace harassment in general, behavior that falls into the category of rude or misconduct, and that we need a particular intervention and initiative in the Jewish community. And I'll talk more a little bit about the founding of SRE in a moment. But I want to say that SRE believes that our communities deserve healthy workplaces and communal spaces that are safe, respectful, and equitable. which comes to our name, SRE, or Safety, Respect, Equity. And so what do those words mean? So let's just unpack that for a moment. And then what is the communal gap that we've identified with each of these areas? Because this is the underpinning of everything we do at SRE. So the first of our three core principles, safety, we define safety as environments that are free from harassment, abuse, and violence. And we identify the current communal gap in this area, that there is a lack of consistent, robust, and effective policies, practices, and safeguards to protect individuals from abuse and violence and to address instances of abuse. Second, respect. We define respect as people engage one another with the Jewish value of kavod habriot, which recognizes the inherent dignity of each and every person. And the gap we identify is insufficient education and training to build and sustain respectful workplaces and communal culture. And then last but certainly not least, the E in our name, equity. All people are treated fairly. Meaningful pathways and access to opportunities and advancement are provided to close demographic disparities. Here we identify a lack of communal understanding and practical application of equity principles. And again, as I'm talking, if anybody has a comment or a question related to anything I'm sharing, please put it in the chat. You know, I'm sharing a lot of information, but would love to engage with each of you. So the solution. SRE Network believes Jewish organizations are capable of creating and sustaining safe, respectful, and equitable workplaces for all, provided they are committed to and gain the appropriate skills, tools, and resources to be effective. So we bring organizations together to provide them with the necessary components for this change. So SRE Network. So who are we? So as I said, we can go to the next slide. So as I shared, right, SRE Network came about 6 years ago, just nearly 6 years ago, and I really want to acknowledge the leadership of Lisa Eisen, who is our founding board chair and the co-president of the Schusterman Family Philanthropies, who, along with our other major funders, investors, the Jim Joseph Foundation and the Weinberg Foundation, came together and created first the Safety, Respect, Equity Coalition. And if anybody here was a part of that initial coalition, would love to see that, those shout outs in the chat. And then we changed our name a few years ago as we really got clear about our work to the SRE Network, Safety, Respect, Equity Network. And just recently, you probably heard, we put together a strategic plan that really clarified what our work is, clarified our mission and vision, and set out a roadmap for how we can engage with each of you as we strengthen the network in the areas of safety, respect, and equity. If anybody wants to learn more about our strategic plan, we'll put the link in the chat. And now let's look at our mission. So SRE Network promotes Jewish workplaces and communal spaces in becoming safe, respectful, and equitable through network building, resource sharing, and community investments. And in just a moment, Samantha and Andrea will talk a little bit more about those. We envision a Jewish communal landscape that is safe, respectful, and equitable, where people are free from abuse, engage one another with dignity, and are treated fairly, where individuals are empowered, organizations are resilient, and communities are strengthened. So this is our North Star. This is where we're going. And we can't do that work without all of you who are individual leaders of your organizations that together come together in this network to create the ripple effects that are going to cause change. So how do we do this? Inspired and grounded in Jewish texts and values and traditions, we engage champions, that may be you, even if you don't know that title for yourself, engage champions of safety, respect, and equity through 3 strategies: through network building, through resource sharing, and through community investments. And with that, I want to pause and see if there are any questions. And then I'm going to invite Samantha back to talk a little bit more about what network building does.
Great. So Before I dive into what network building is, I really want to center us in a line that Shayna shared. SRE Network believes Jewish organizations are capable of creating and sustaining safe, respectful, and equitable workplaces for all, provided they are committed and gain appropriate skills, tools, and resources to be effective. And so network building is really bringing together right now 175 plus organizations across the Jewish communal landscape, and that number is growing every day, to do this work in community. We are building something new. Unfortunately, a world free from abuse and harm that is truly safe, respectful, and equitable doesn't yet exist. And so we really believe on the power of community and the power of doing this work in a network where we can support each other and learn from each other. And none of us are doing this challenging work in isolation or recreating the wheel, but rather able to really learn, navigate challenges together, and do this work in community with our allies across the country. And so as part of our network building work, there's a few services I really want to highlight that we provide. One is personal membership support. So a lot of my role is meeting with our member organizations, getting a sense of where you're at in your SRE journey, what are the topics you're working on, what are your strengths, and then being able to provide personalized kind of general support. So if you tell me you're working on X topic, connecting you with a relevant resource or connecting you with a peer introduction through our kind of network weaving work of someone who has been in your shoes or is currently kind of navigating the same, so you can work together or learn from each other, and really pulling kind of the resources of the network as a whole, whether it's a physical resource or the resource of learning with and from each other as allies. We're really excited that within this work this year, we are launching communities of practice. So far, we have launched a Orthodox community of practice and a community of practice for our grantees to learn together, for all of our organizations that received grants in the fall of 2023. And we're excited that this fall we'll be rolling out more communities of practice focused on serving our member organizations. And so our communities of practice are really, peer learning cohorts, bringing leaders together to navigate challenges, share their work, get inspired by each other, brainstorm how to address different pieces, and to really do this work in community. Julian, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So resource sharing is another huge element of this work. And so some of this is SRE developing resources ourselves, like toolkits, guides, sample policies, etc. And some of it is connecting the wealth of knowledge and resources that organizations across the network, practitioners we work with, partners we work with, are accessible to our broader field. And so, we have resources like the Kaleen Policy Toolkit, Leading Edge's Employee Handbook of Best Practices, Women's Rabbinic Network, their Family and Medical Leave Toolkit that's an amazing resource, hiring tools from the Management Center. There's such a wealth of knowledge and expertise, samples, toolkits amongst our network, and that SRE in particular has developed, that we provide access for you to use and to work with and to support your work. We also offer virtual learning programs on a monthly basis. I'll talk about, some examples of those a little bit more, but to increase the knowledge, skills, peer connections, et cetera, of the network, really focused on, gap areas we've identified across the network and what we're hearing on the ground. We also bring our network together for 2 days of deep learning every year at our annual convening. And then this year, we are offering some kind of newer or new and improved services. So one is strategic coaching and guidance. This has been a space we've been working in for a long time, but we realize that not a lot of our members know about it. When organizations are, navigating a deep challenge or an emerging challenge, they can reach out to our team, get matched with a team member with the right expertise, and then receive some complimentary consultation to give them some guidance and support in what they're navigating. This might look like 1 or 2 meetings, some follow-up emails with resources and support, and we want to make sure that our members know that this service is available. In addition, launching this year, we'll have more details to share as the year progresses, but we've heard from members that they'd like us to provide in-house trainings or presentations to their staff or board by our SRE team. And so we'll be sharing more about that later, but that's new resources coming as well. And Julian, if you want to go to the next page, I'll just give a couple examples of some of the programs that we've had in the past 2 years. We've run trainings on how to respond to disclosures or how to conduct an investigation when your organization might receive a complaint of misconduct. We've run trainings on how to address problematic behavior or to understand the continuum of behavior from respectful to disrespectful, abusive, and then unlawful, and how to intervene at different stages on that continuum. Last year we heard from members that they were really navigating how to provide anti-harassment trainings and SRE related trainings to their team. So we conducted a training on that. And so we really hope you'll take advantage of these free monthly virtual programs we offer. Great. And with that, actually, Julian, if you can go back 1 second, I wanted to ask, one question while we're here. Yes, the SRE team on this call is bringing a lot of knowledge to you, but we really believe that each of you have a wealth of experience to share as well. And so we're just curious, is there a resource that's been particularly helpful to you in this work? Before we fully move on, we'd love for folks to share if there's anything that they've utilized that they'd want to bring to our attention or share with the other participants on the call today. And with that, I will introduce Andrea Deck for our community investments work. And Julian, you can go to the next slide.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm Andrea Deck. I'm our Senior Program Officer here at SRE Network. And I'm excited to talk about the work that we're doing in community investments with SRE Network. This is our new, as a part of our strategic plan, we have unveiled and solidified more than really changing anything about our vision for community investments. And specifically, it's about deeply investing in creating cultural shifts and accountability. There's a lot more information available here and in our strategic plan, also on our website, about all of our vision for change and our theory of change in relation to community investments. But as we go to the next slide, you can see that we invest heavily in 2 areas: gender-focused efforts addressing harassment and inequity. So those are programs with women as the primary beneficiary, similar to the things that were shared in the beginning by Shayna. There are so many ways in which women are the gap. There is so much discrimination and pay gap and et cetera that we just have not addressed in a number of ways. So we're looking for exciting, innovative, and tried and true methods in this particular area, and also broader safety, respect, and equity culture change efforts. All of the organizations and all the projects that we have supported are transparent and visible on our website, and we continually seek organizations who understand and help us understand how inequity and structural bias function in a multidimensional way, and design projects around incorporating that understanding. Next slide. We are also currently giving in 3 specific types of grants: capacity building grants for organizations who are looking to build their capacity internal. We also sometimes refer to these as internal capacity building grants, organizations who are looking to train themselves, build new policies, those sorts of things. Those are offered in the fall. We are also offering field building grants, which opened just recently. Very exciting to see organizations who are focusing all of their work, or individual projects or programs that are focused on building the field as a whole. There's a lot more information available on the website. There's also an upcoming grant seekers workshop for that. Don't worry, it'll be dropped in the chat. We also offer a number of strategic grants that don't quite fit into our fall or spring grant pools, and yet are important to the work that we're doing, whether it's research, something that's come out collaboratively and we're looking to help support, or something that we hadn't thought about or just doesn't quite fit. 2 of those that were just announced this month include Illuminate and Top Mode, and we're very excited for the projects that are happening there.